So today I'm talking to Tom Greenwood. Hello, Tom.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, and we're both running it off our phones because my internet's just gone down, and so God. Anyway, so traditional first question is, what do you do?
Yeah, so I'm a my name is Tom. I'm a DJ based in Kent. I'm 18, so I'm fairly young. Only really recently been able to legally get into venues and play out in club environments and stuff.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, so I've been DJing properly for maybe just over a year now. I first started getting behind the decks, maybe must have been 2018, so a few years ago when I was a bit younger, more just practicing, having fun. I decided to really step up sort of my music career maybe about this time last year, maybe a little bit earlier. Started making mixes, started pushing myself out there on social media. And yeah, now I'm here today, just DJing at raves and clubs and just doing what I love really.
Cool stuff. Now, you said, when did you say you started? 2015
So
or
so 2018 was when I first
20?
started to play with decks. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So that's right. So this, I'm just trying to put this in context. So you're about 13, right?
Yeah, about 13. Yeah, yeah.
Right. Okay. So here's the point. Were you interested in sort of DJing beforehand? I know this sounds a bit of a silly thing, or did you end up with some decks or something that you thought, oh, somebody lent you something, or how did you get involved?
Yeah, so it's really funny actually. So ever since I was little, yeah, weirdly enough, because obviously my mum, um, she likes very different kind of music to sort of what DJs play. So I kind of got into it all myself, just with friends, listening to sort of drum and bass, some old stuff like Goldie or whatever. And when I was at school, I had a thing called the Duke of Edinburgh award scheme, and for part of it, you had to learn a
Oh,
new
cool.
skill.
Right.
Yeah, yeah. So you had to learn a new
Yeah, right.
skill, and I thought, well, I love sort of dance music, stuff like that, and I've always wanted to sort of maybe dabble into sort of DJing. And I thought, well, as part of my skill section, why don't I try it? And then I sort of got a few lessons and stuff over in Maidstone. And basically the whole setup was it was at a club on a Sunday, the Source Bar in Maidstone, which funnily enough I've DJed at now. So yeah, so it's a good progression story. But yeah, so essentially from there, I started learning, sort of just messing around, nothing too serious. And I got a set of decks, played around with it for maybe, I don't know, a few months or whatever. And then from there, I kind of all died out. I wasn't too interested. Realistically, I was too young to sort of know any promoters or go to any events myself. So I did the passion wasn't quite there yet. It was more just for fun. And then when I was about 16, I'd say I really got back into sort of dance music, started to sneak into a few clubs and raves, and the bounce wasn't looking kind of thing. Yeah, and then from there through 17, sort of started to really pick up the decks again, start to look at maybe a few production bits, go out a little bit more. And then really late last year, I started putting more mixes out there, got noticed by a few promoters, went a bit viral on TikTok, got 500,000 views on one of my videos. Um, and then started playing on radio, really. And then as soon as I turned
Yes.
18, I've met enough promoters and stuff to sort of get those legal club venue sort of being able to play there. Oh, apologies, that's my phone. Um,
Right.
but yeah, it's interesting really because before that, um, I used to play at sort of more unlicensed music venues because I didn't really care if I was 18 quite yet. So yeah, that's more how I got into sort of playing out the crowds and stuff. But yeah, that's how I started. Now I'm playing every weekend on the radio and at clubs.
Cool. There's a lot of stuff there, actually, Tom. So let's go back. You're the first one to mention Duke of Edinburgh as being
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
beginning point of something. But that's brilliant, actually, because obviously, I get a lot of people doing guitar as their skill section for Duke of Edinburgh, and I think actually it's such a great idea, because it gets people focused in a way that it's not like doing an exam or anything. You just have to show some sort of commitment towards something.
Yeah.
And I thought it was really good. So when you were saying about DJing, it's still quite left field to think of, because I've not come across anybody else who's done that as a skill section. If you know what I mean. And then to sort of follow that through and find somebody who could teach you some DJing. That's very interesting.
Yeah,
so you must have really liked the idea of that you could have done DJing.
Mm.
Do you remember what it felt, what the idea was like when you got it? Because I'm interested in this sort of thing about what motivates people.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you remember what sort of really clinched it for you that was how that's what you're going to do for Duke of Edinburgh?
Yeah, so I think it's a bit weird actually. I think the main thing is being someone with ADHD, so attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. I tend to bounce around between hobbies like a lot. You can ask my mum. And she will and essentially I'll just every day I want to try something new, and then generally I'll find something. 1 in 5 things, 1 in 10 things I really like. And sort of, I don't know, really. I think just through my passion of love for the music and stuff, I thought, well, let me just give it a go because that's what I'm good at. I'm just good at just giving it a crack. And if I don't like it, oh well. Yeah, and I had, been able to tie it in with the opportunity of Duke of Edinburgh. I sort of put 2 and 2 together, and I literally had allocated education time, so to speak, to actually do something instead of saying obviously being young and not having a lot of money, I can say to my parents, hey, look, it's for school kind of thing. So yeah, I think that's why I chose it for Duke of Edinburgh, definitely.
So when you actually got who was it who sort of gave you some sort of lessons in it then?
Yeah, so in Maidstone, I don't know if it's still going. There's like loads of DJ academies you can go to nowadays. And the one I went to was above the Sauce Bar in Maidstone. Christ.
Sorry.
And yeah, I think put something there next to it. Yeah, and I think you sort of pay in it. You can use their equipment and stuff. The guy's name was John Glover. Yeah, I think he's still out there. You might be able to search him up online. But yeah, I'd recommend if anyone wants to get into DJing, they should definitely find an academy potentially to go to. But also then again, if the money's not quite there, you can search up online, book a studio and just practice.
So what I was going to ask you was, how quickly did you realize that you could do this? I mean, like that you were good, because obviously you are good, because you wouldn't be being out doing clubs and stuff now. I mean, was it something that took a while, or was it sort of something that you sort of picked up quickly?
Well, the way that I would look at it, I would say the start of my proper journey in terms of actually trying and when I'm picking up would have been about just over a year ago because
Right.
I know obviously it goes back many years, but that was more just giving it a go, practicing, nothing
Yeah.
too serious. But yeah, I think I have picked it up really quickly, to be honest. And
Yeah,
I
I
think
think
that's just how I am as a learner. That's just how I learn, really, just in anything, really. And I think if I'm interested in something, I'm really, really good at it. And I think that comes back to having ADHD. And there's a lot of people probably listening who can relate to that in some sort of way. And obviously,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. That's an interesting thing because I've always been fascinated by the type of characters who you would occasionally meet who just seem to be able to just pick things up really quickly.
Mm.
And obviously, with regard to sort of musical instruments, primarily, obviously, that's what I've seen mostly. But interestingly, there are certain people who are good at picking things up, lots of different things.
Mm.
It doesn't really matter what it was, but they just become very good at things very quickly. Now, I don't know whether that's something to do with, as you say, ADHD, right? Whether that's that you've got a very fast mind that assimilates information quickly, and that's what happens.
So I think you just cut out there actually.
Okay, all right, that's all right.
It's saying my connection's a bit unstable, so I don't think my webcam's working at the minute because it's
No, it's
running
okay.
through the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, I can hear you right there. Can you hear
Is
me?
that? Oh
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. It might cut out
Okay.
again, but if it does, just
Yeah, well, don't worry because we're going to just have to do because as I say, I'm just running off the phone anyway. So, um, but yeah, I'm really interested by this because you see what tends to happen when people think about people being good at something.
mm,
They stereotype them into a way of being those type of people,
mm.
and I don't think it's like that at all. I think actually you get some people who are, pick things up really quickly, and you get some other people, and it's a sort of a bit of a slow burn. That's why I was sort of asking you about how when it was. So you said initially you were just doing it because that was a Duke of Edinburgh thing and whatever. But I'm guessing really that whatever you learned back when you were sort of 13, 14 must have been relevant to you when you came back.
Yeah, 100%.
There's,
I think coming back into it, knowing how decks work at a
yeah,
basic level, you got two songs, you got a beat match, you got you're basically playing two songs at once, three songs at once, four songs at once. Um, I think I think that definitely helped. Definitely, but it's interesting though because a buddy of mine, one of my best mates, who I DJ with, he has a knack of picking things up really, really super quickly. Instruments, anything you name it, he can do it. And he went from probably he started maybe 8, 9 months ago, and he's playing nearly at the same level I am. He's in terms of DJing skills, it's probably roughly maybe a little bit less than where I am, but his production skills are probably better. And I think because he hasn't done as much social media and hasn't been in the scene long enough, he's not playing quite the same venue as I am. But I taught him, and he managed to pick it up really quickly with no knowledge of how decks work. So I think, so like you say, some people do pick things up quickly, but in my case, I think having that knowledge first of all, at least to kind of know what you're doing, did help. But in terms of what I've learned since I first got back, when I got back on the decks, than what I knew is so much more. It's so much more than just playing a song. You got to learn how songs work, mastering. You got to there's so much, and you got to also learn to be a bit of a audio engineer, because things go wrong occasionally. Especially like with you playing, playing live in any case. So yeah, you kind of have to learn loads of bits, and you got to be a social media manager. You got to be promote yourself. It's so much.
yeah. Now that I was going to get on to ask you about this because when you were saying, that you on one of the things that you did on TikTok, you about 500,000 people. I mean, the numbers that you're talking about are just mind-boggling, really. I mean, and you might say, well, that's not very much for TikTok, but the point is, if you go back to, um, you know, artists and musicians back in the day, even if you were like a DJ for like somebody like Andy Tom, right, as an
Mm,
example. Um, Obviously, they were well known because they were on the BBC, and then it sort of went from there. And of course, those sort of numbers of people who would know a DJ name would
mm,
be because it was to do with BBC Radio. And that might be, 20, 30 million people.
mm,
But that's like, an isolated few people that would have got that sort of, you know, connection with other people. And now we're talking about getting onto social media and getting, a 20th of that,
mm,
a million people um, in a short period of time. It's just incredible.
mm.
It's such a different environment. So, what would you say? Because you must have been aware of how that fitted in as a way of promoting yourself. What was your sort of idea behind that? Was just like, well, everybody's doing things on. Was it that sort of thing? Everybody's doing stuff on TikTok. Let's have a go, type of
Mm.
thing, or
Yeah, I
did you
think
have some?
yeah, I think the thing was is that where was I? I think I was at an event in Gravesend host that I was helping run, just like a little club night, nothing too spectacular. And at the end of it, when the lights came on and everything, I just thought, oh, you know what? Like I've been practicing my DJing a little bit. I'll hop on the decks. And I hop on the decks and I start DJing and I do a really good drop. And someone had filmed it and they sent it to me and I thought, oh, that's pretty good, it's all right. And but it was a bit strange because I didn't think it was that good. And I posted it on TikTok and literally overnight it went like completely viral. And he got a lot of mixed reviews. He got like, I'd say like 50% was like, oh, this is rubbish. 50% said, oh, this is great. And I think, looking through negative comments, it does obviously make you have to have a bit of thick skin. You got to think, people are going to dislike, what you're doing. But in terms of after that blew up, I just used it as a bit of a tool just to sort of promote myself, really. Um, and yeah, from there, I sort of used that platform to create a few mixes and stuff. But in a
Mm,
weird way, I think getting to the level I am, I think social media has helped a lot, but blowing up overnight on TikTok definitely didn't help that much because it was more from meeting people in person, weirdly enough, and shaking hands and being nice to people and saying doing the right things, and then
oh,
obviously using social media through that to text them and stuff. But I think
yeah, yeah,
people don't realize even if you just because you've blown up on social media doesn't necessarily mean that you're sort of going to get a career out of it. And a lot of sort of musicians who have overnight fame on social media, you tend to not hear about them a year after because they've blown up and they've got nothing to fall back on. That's why in production and stuff, my rule is I've got to make loads and loads of songs because if one blows up, I need something to fall back on. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one with social media, definitely, and also it can make or break your
yeah,
career because if you post the wrong thing and people don't like you, it could be a career over sort of thing.
yeah, yeah. Now, there was a sort of the revenge of the Zoom gremlins when you were talking about that thing before. So your voice became a bit sort of pixelated.
Oh yeah,
Um, so let's just sort of because you said I gathered that you were playing in a club somewhere, right?
yeah,
You were in a club, and then is that right?
yeah. I
Did
was in
that
I was in I was in a club, yeah, and then I wasn't DJing that night, but I was helping host the event with a few friends. We put a little bit of a club night on.
right? Right. So and then what? Somebody recorded what you were doing, and then
Yeah, so once the event had ended and a few people were packing up or whatever, I went out onto the decks and I just started, just playing a few songs, playing a few songs. And a few people started to like it and stuff. And one of my friends just happened to film it. And then I thought, oh, that's pretty good. I'll just put it online to see if it get any good reactions. And yeah, literally it blew up really. It went pretty viral.
Right. Okay. So that's good. That could. Well, I only got little clips of what you were saying.
Yeah.
Okay. So you said a really interesting thing about you thought the most important thing was actually being able to shake hands with people and meeting people, you make your connections, isn't it? I mean,
Sorry, you just
I think
cut
that's what you
out.
said.
You
All
just
right. I was
cut.
going to say. Yeah. Okay. So you were saying that obviously, although when things sort of go really well on social media, it's actually really you personally meeting people and shaking hands and making connections in the real world. Is that right? Is that what you said?
Yeah. So sorry, it cut
It
out a
dropped
little bit,
out
but I
again.
think I think I got the gist of what you're saying. So yeah, I think social media will only go as far, and I feel like you can't rely on it as much as
No.
people say you can. It's an insane tool though in terms of music nowadays. So like if you can utilize social media, you can do anything you want really. But I also think it's a double-sided coin because on the other hand, let's say you do around on social media and you get to a gig, if you aren't acting correctly and you aren't behaving and being nice to people and being nice to the promoter and saying thank you and turning up on time and not blasting the levels on the mix and just loads millions of just little bits of etiquette. If you're not doing those right, doesn't matter how far you got on social media, that promoter has 20 other promoters in his phone book hit and one bad rep and it's in you won't get booked
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So it really does come down to social media for me was just a tool to sort of say, hey, can I play at your event? Or hey, can I send you a mix in, see what you think? That was
Mm.
really it. I haven't had a lot of people say, oh, can you play my event because I've seen you on social media. It's been more
No.
just
No.
to more for meeting people and just promoting my music and stuff, promoting myself really. But apart from that, getting more sets and stuff, it's all down to just trying to be consistent and be nice to people.
Yeah. I think that's so important. Do you know? I was talking to somebody the other day about this, about websites, right? Because this is a similar sort of thing. Businesses pay a massive amount of money for building a website.
Hmm.
You know, tens of thousands of pounds sometimes, and it's your shop window. I get that, but a lot of people think that a good all singing, all dancing website will do more than it actually can do, which I
Mm.
think is absolutely the same with social media. Because you
Yeah.
hear the same sort of things being said that, you're really good with social media, that's going to do it. Well, no, actually, it's just a tool. Um, and a lot of this, I've seen this over and over again, over the years. It's all about knowing someone
Yeah.
or somebody
100%.
knowing you, that when an opportunity comes up, your name is the one that springs to mind, you know.
Mm.
Um, and I think there it's a bit of an illusion that's sort of spun sometimes by people who are writing about social media, right? That it's not about that. It's about social media, but it's not actually. It's about you connecting with people in an honest way that's real, not you know just giving somebody a telephone number. It's actually making it that people know who you are, and actually as a friend, really. I
Yeah.
think,
I think
being
yeah.
real.
Yeah, I was going to just follow up on that. I think obviously once you get to if you want to know who the biggest DJs are, especially in drum and bass right now, you do look on social media to find them. But all of those
Yeah,
people, they would have had to start somewhere, a bit like where I am now, to sort of just build up connection, build up connections. And then obviously they're once you get to a higher level, social media is so important, and that's like anyone in the music career at the minute. That's how you find people through social media. But to get sort of big and to get onto big events, it's a lot. Yeah, like I say, it's not just you can't just do it all through your phone. You got to be able to walk the walk as well. You can't just do it all through social media. But it is still an insane tool. So I'd say it's 50-50.
mm, that's right. Well, and again, that's it's the same, like we were saying about knowing the right sort of things to do when you turn up at a venue. Again, it's the same thing like playing in a band, because there's always this idea that people get this illusion that the best, and this must be true of DJs as well, right? Because it's true that I would say with anything, people have always got this idea that you've got to be the best to get to wherever it is, and actually, it's not that. It's actually lots of things.
Yeah.
It's being reliable, and it's being easy to work with, and turning up on time and having the right gear, and knowing your stuff, so that you're a completely safe pair of hands. And I've often thought this with regard to when we look at people and you sort of go, well, I don't know who you would say is a great DJ, but there's always this idea that they are the best, just in the same way that a guitarist might go, well, the best guitar player was this, which is not actually true. I mean, the classic ones is Hendrix's thing, because Hendrix never rated himself at all, and that's the point. There's always a lot of people who are really good, but they don't fit quite. They're not they're not in the zeitgeist. They're not the people of the moment. And there's a personality thing, I think, which is really important, that we always miss out of it because it just doesn't easily fit into a bracket. Somebody's personality could literally be the perfect fit for the situation, the time, that time, and and a year before it wouldn't have been, and a year after it might not be.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you sort of see that like that, but
no, 100%. Yeah.
But I do think that's the point, and this is why you've obviously got an ability to sort of, let's call it, read a room. If you're DJing, you must sort of look out in an audience and go, you get the vibe of what's going on.
That's 90% of what you have to do. You have to read the room.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So that is the skill that you would have in any art form, I would guess. If you're an actor, or obviously if you're in a band or whatever, you've got to read the room. And you must have had this anyway. Some nights it goes unexpectedly well, and yet you could do the same thing on another night and it wouldn't be as good.
Yeah, 100%.
And so I'm always interested, and particularly because I don't know anything about DJing, but ironically, the last podcast that went out was a bass player called Elliot Peake, and he DJs as well. So I've got two DJs on the trot.
Yeah.
I think that's it's one of those sort of things that whatever's happening for you is the same thing that happens for other people when you're dealing with a crowd.
Yeah, I think definitely. Everyone's got their stories of good nights and bad nights, and and just to go back on what you said a little bit earlier, I think with what you were saying about you haven't got to always be the best in terms of skill. That it's true what you say. Like, I know I have people, friends that who are high level DJs who could perform with some of the best in the world, who they just haven't fit that criteria yet. Like you say, they're not quite there all around. They're not promoting themselves enough. They're not saying the right things. They're not leveling up, and that's why they're not quite there. And the way that I look at it, I'm looking at it in steps. So I play one event like a little house party. My next one up from that is like a bigger house party, and then I played sort of like a small like rave or whatever, and a club, and then bigger club night and a bigger rave. So I'm at that point where I'm playing, going to be playing pretty big club nights soon, and from there it's just going to keep going and adding promoting music and stuff. I want to get to that level, but it is very true what you say. You have to be an all-round guy, and I think I've got to where I am so far in my journey because of just through being nice to people and like you say, being a good set of hands and being reliable, turning up, offering to help out, offering to help fund things, promoting events, stuff like that. And I think that's just how it is. I mean, literally half an hour ago before I came on here, um, I got a message to play to play an event with a really famous DJ called DjWizhard, who has a really famous song out. He's synonymous in the drum bass industry, and I feel like the reason why he gave me that set is because for the past month I've been texting him, saying, "Oh, the last event I played for you was really good. Can I play the next one? Great night," stuff like that. Just being really nice, and I
Yeah,
think
yeah,
that
yeah.
that'll get you a long way.
Yeah, it does. Absolutely. So okay, so is another question here for you. What because obviously there's I think what you're doing is similar to, like when I was sort of your age and trying to do, create a band and get gigs and all the rest of it. There's a certain, how can I put this? Yeah, so again, it's a little bit like this sort of vibe. There is a sort of a scene, if you like, that that you're working, which is it's quite difficult to put into words what I'm trying to get at. Um, it's sort of what I'm trying to say is there are certain things that you instinctively know are the things to be done, and you sort of don't quite know why you know that. Does that make sense?
Sort
Perhaps that
of
does.
in
It's
terms.
it's not like somebody's. Well, it's. I'm just sort of when I was. I'll explain it from my experience personally when I was sort of starting trying to get. It took a while to work out exactly what sort of music to do because
Mhm.
you're playing music that you like and all that, which if you're DJing, you would be obviously interested in a particular style.
Mhm.
You said drum and bass, right? And in a way, you could draw a comparison to bands. Somebody might say, "Oh, I'm in a heavy metal band," so you play heavy metal venues at the moment.
Mhm.
Um, but I was always looking for something that was slightly not sort of different, but sort of a better fit. Like I had an idea of something, but I wasn't really sure what it was. I
Yeah.
wasn't just out and playing other people's material. It was almost like I was trying to find my feet in this sort of there was a developing musical field happening, but I wasn't sure what it was.
Yeah, no, I get that. I think in the drum and bass scene, because to a lot of people who don't listen to drum and bass, it might all sound the same, but there's so many subgenres in drum and bass. It's huge, and I get what you're saying. Like, I have to, as a DJ, I have to stay on top of the trends of what's trending in drum and bass, like different. At the minute you've got sort of like horror jump up, which is like darker sounds. You've got 4x4 jump up, which is like um almost like techno-y drum and bass drops. And I think from starting music production, I'm really am trying to fine tune what I want to make and what I want to play. But then again, like if I'm going to an event where I know there's a lot of older people, I have to prep my sets to have older tunes in it, sort of, Goldie, old Shy FX stuff, maybe a bit of jungle. But if I'm going to somewhere where the vibe is more like Belgian jump up, which is like really heavy, like laser sounds, crazy stuff that I make on Serum, like presets and stuff, on synthesizer and stuff. I get what you're saying. It's like I am trying to find what I like, and especially I feel like this comes a bit more down to production.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, in terms of my production, I think I am definitely trying to. There is something happening in drum and bass at the minute. There is definitely a lot of new areas because if you look back, I don't know, 30 years, it just come out of sort of jungle. And this is when Goldie sort of started time stretching and stuff like that, and putting breakbeat through time stretching and stuff. And you had like a very sort of minimal breaks in drum and bass. And then it started to move to sort of 2010 and 2015. You got more jump up sounds, which are like sort of, weird noises that have sort of been developed on synthesizers and stuff. And then now we're getting into even more crazy stuff, and to the point where there's so much variety in drum and bass that I am, like you say, I'm trying to find a certain sound.
Yeah, that is exactly what I'm getting at. So
Yeah.
this is interesting, isn't it? Because it's like, because there are some people who don't do that. Actually, there are some people who are just, from my point of view, as a you know, as a guitarist or whatever, who are quite happy to play the songs by somebody else and that's it, because that's
Mm.
what they do. So they'll reproduce, whatever in their band. But I was never can, uh, for some reason, I was never happy with that.
Yeah.
I was never happy with that because it seemed to be like, well, why would you bother doing
Yeah. Yeah.
that?
100%.
You're looking for your own identity within what you're doing. I think that's what it is. I think that's what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. So it's interesting you said that, because it backs up a really huge point I always say. I think to become a big DJ, and it's not always true, but from my experience, you have to produce music, because if you look at all the biggest DJs in the world, if you looked at a list of, I don't know, top 10 biggest DJs in the world, they all produce music. I don't think nowadays you can just get big from just playing other people's tunes. You've got to be
No,
original. And all these DJs that you see playing at raves and events and stuff are all known because of their specific sound and their sound design. And to the point where if you play me a random drum and bass song, I could probably tell you who made it through their sound design. And that's what I'm trying to do at the minute. I'm trying to really knuckle down on production, because that's how you get big. Because once you get a song blow up, once your song blows up, you know, that's when the sets will come, because you're then known, because people are listening to that song, listening to. But
yes,
I think just sort of posting mixes, because you haven't got anything to market yourself from. What makes you special? Like, okay, yeah, you're a good DJ, but it'll only really get you like so far. I think, I can't think of any huge DJ that doesn't actually produce.
no,
I honestly can't think of one. And even
no,
guitarists as well, like in your field, I bet the thing is, and here's the thing, there are a lot of great DJs who don't produce, who are probably on the same level as these big ones that produce, but they won't get known because they don't. And
no.
like in your instance with the guitarists, sort of the big guitarists like Hendrix, sort of people like that, they had their own songs. That's what,
Yes,
it,
exactly,
you know,
exactly. And this, so the whole sort of, because obviously I've just written a book about creative thinking to do with, obviously the angle is sort of music, but it's actually, it could apply to any creative endeavor, right? The point about it is that we have to be creative. There's no point in not being creative, because you've got to bring yourself to it somehow, which is, like you're saying, if somebody's written a song, or that's their contribution, if you like, to the whole artistic thing, right?
yeah, yeah,
Exactly with what you're saying. If you're a DJ, it's like being a, you have to think about this with session players, because they're really great, but they're only doing what they're told to do.
mm,
They're like doing a job.
yeah,
And that must be true with DJing. You can go and do the job, but if you want to do something artistic, you've got to do something creative
yeah.
within that.
I
So
mean,
that,
what? Go on, sorry.
no, it's exactly the point. I think it's so important.
Yeah, I think I think what sets you apart from the rest, and I think it's true in anything, even like business. If you have like, I don't know, like a window cleaning company, what sets you apart from the others? You all
Ex-
clean windows, but what makes you better? It holds true in anything really, and I think
Yeah, yeah.
especially.
I'll tell you a little story about. Uh, there's a guy that I interviewed a little while ago who's a guitar player, and he was actually playing guitar in Toyah Wilcox's band. So Toyah
Okay.
was a sort of post-punk, sort of new wave. So we're talking about late 70s, early 80s, right? Sort of pop star. And she's still
Mm.
going, right? And she still was crazy and everything. Um, so when I went and saw her when she was first became well known, and she was just so dynamic. It was incredible. You know, you thought, well, sort of a 2 hour set, and it was just non-stop, you know, singing, moving around, dancing, and all that. And they did a documentary about Toyah, and she came out with this phrase, and it was so brilliant. There was a picture, you know, they were taking photographs of her, and she used to have this sort of, she used to look a bit like sort of Boudica, you know, some sort of warrior woman type look, you know.
Mm.
And she said, "Yeah, I think of myself as a tin of baked beans." And the question is, why would somebody buy me instead of the brand that's next to me? And you sort of go, that is brilliant, because it's like she's taken it completely away from the arty bit and just thought, well, what sets me apart from all these other people?
Mm.
And if you haven't got that, then nobody will notice you, or they won't, you know, they
Yeah,
won't be
yeah,
born, you know.
yeah. I think
And I think
that holds true. Yeah, 100%. I think it.
so. Beans, right, Tom?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I think
Yeah,
yeah, I've seen so many. There's so much talent out there, you know. And if you want to look at it in back to DJing, in terms of actual DJing talent, there are so many people who don't even have 100 followers on Instagram who could get up on stage with these big names and could actually probably do just as good, but they're just not known because, like you say, they're not special. They're just an average guy. And you know, also as someone who's paying, I don't know, 30, 40 quid to go to a rave, or £300 to go to a festival, you want to have that connection with someone. You want to be able to listen to their music and relate to it in a certain way. So when you hear
yes,
it being, when you go to see that DJ play that music, you know,
yeah,
you want to
yeah, yeah,
you go to a certain guitarist concert or a certain band because you want to hear their music be played out. But those guitarists that are playing in those bands, yeah, they could probably, play in other bands and stuff like that. But if they haven't got that
yeah.
creativity of their own thing, then no, why would someone want to pay to see you? You know, otherwise you
Well,
just.
there's a strange sort of psychology about what attracts us to things, right? And it's almost like you want to be part of the club, right? That particular DJ, you know, you want, that's what it's about. It's almost like you sign up to their club. And again, this is a bit, you know, drawing a musical comparison here. Oh, the Oasis Club, right?
Mm.
You know, the Oasis band, when you bought the album or whatever, it was like you were signing up to them,
Mm.
or you would be in the Blur Club,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And
yeah, of course, yeah.
go back to another musical period, and it would have been the Beatles or the Stones. You know, you were either somebody who liked the Stones. You know, it was that type of thing. And I think that's the point that we sort of forget. People want to be part of a tribe. I think
Yeah.
that's what it boils down to.
Yeah,
It's,
yeah, and it also
you
as well,
know,
it's through history, I think, like, especially with music genres, there's almost cult followings, sort of like the music that punks listen to, sort of like greasers, like, and then now we've obviously ravers, drum and bass ravers, they have their own identity, because I'm one of them. There's sort of like it's very different to other sort of music genres, and because of that, if you pick an artist you like you say, you've signed up to them, you like them, you're going to talk to your mates about them, it's the music that you put on to get you motivated. It's the music that you put on when you're feeling down. It's, you know what I mean? You always have to relate to it in a certain way, and you have signed up for it psychologically. You're 100% right.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that we often forget, that because we are, we're social creatures. Let's face it. Yeah, that's you know that's how we sort of function. We're wired that way,
Mm,
and it sort of makes, and okay, there's some people who are more individualistic than that, but generally speaking, that's what happens with people, and that's why people like being in big crowds and stuff like that,
mm,
right? And so this goes back to this sort of social media thing. Is That's a similar sort of thing, but it's not. You're part of a crowd, but it's not sort of obvious, if you sort of mean. But it's
mm,
that sort of mentality, and I think that's what I've been sort of interested in with what you've been saying about using social media, because I'm pretty useless at social
mm.
media, but certainly you've got to be able to communicate with people. I mean, that's the thing. So, what do you think is, if you're doing a post, what's the sort of thing that you're looking at if you're doing something for, say, TikTok? What do you do just to?
Yeah, so I've got a really good example because about 4 o'clock this afternoon, I promoted an event that I'm playing at in December. I'm playing alongside a really, really big group of artists called Bass Layers. They've been in the game for years. I saw him play actually at E1 on Friday, and I've listened to them since I was a little kid. And yesterday evening, I got a text from a promoter saying, "Do you want to play on the same event as them?" So I was in London actually. I had to sit down, and I was like, "Christ, what the hell?" Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I need
That's
a second.
good.
It's that a bit of a big break, and I put on my story on TikTok. I made a post. There's a bit of a trend going around at the minute where you say you put a picture of yourself. It's going to sound crazy unless you see it. You put a picture of
Yeah,
yourself and you put a caption. When someone asks you what you're doing on, I don't know, the 28th of December, and you swipe and you put oh no, that's it. So you put a picture of yourself and you put a little speech bubble from someone else saying, are you free on the 28th of December? And you swipe and you put absolutely not, and then you swipe again and you put the flyer of the event you're playing.
yeah,
It
yeah.
it doesn't make much sense. I'll send you a link so you can understand it. But
No,
anyway,
do.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. I posted that. I went back to work for 2 hours. I come back, it's got 4,000 views already.
yeah,
Random people, so many likes. That event actually that I'm playing on, the first release of tickets sold out in 4 hours, which is
right.
crazy. And to think I'm only backstage with some of the biggest guys in the scene, still mind-boggling. But I was going to get onto that later. But yeah, in terms of posts, you gotta look at what's trending, especially on TikTok. There's a lot of algorithms and stuff. So
Yeah,
using the audio I used was that group's audio, Bass Layers audio, and just finding little trends and stuff, and using pictures that are catchy because our attention spans as humans on TikTok they're so bad. You swipe, 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 swipe. So you want to
yeah,
see something, okay, big picture, loads of likes, a picture of me and all my friends at a festival. Oh, good music, lots of hashtags, so it's coming up on people's pages. They're swiping, and then boom, 28th of December, this really big band's coming to you, big group, sorry, is coming to you in Maidstone, which there's not a lot of drum and bass stuff in Maidstone. So anyone who lives there is instantly gonna be like, right, cool, this is good, like that. And it sort of builds up, and they look at my profile, and it just all builds up. Really, I think you just have to have that thing that stands out on social media, especially like what happened today. It's crazy.
yeah. That is amazing. Yeah. Tell me about tell me about some of the other things that you're doing. Then. So you got this. This is that sounds an amazing
Mhm.
gig that you. Um, so what other things have you got lined up then? So you got this one
Yeah,
and the
so
sort.
I'm a resident actually now on Code Red Radio, which is one of the biggest drum and bass radio stations in the UK. And I'm also a resident for a group called Modes of Vibrations, and it's a group of us, and we have a show on Rough Tempo Radio, which is actually one of the biggest dance music radio stations in the UK. And I'm on there every Friday playing. They've got like 6 decks. It's crazy. If you search it up, you'll see it. So yeah, you can have a look at that. That's so weekly. I'm getting myself out there. Any modes of vibration events that get put on, I'm playing. I'm also an intrusive audio resident, which is for a group down in Crowbar. And in terms of events coming up next week, I'm playing in Reading on a Tuesday night, funnily enough, because obviously it's a student night in Reading at Wobb's Events. That's going to be really good. Then I'm playing in Aylesbury for Shed the Bass alongside DjWizhard, which is going to be a really good one. And then my biggest one coming up at the minute is obviously the one in Maidstone at the Zoo Bar in Maidstone, playing alongside Bass Slayers, which is honestly, I was almost in tears yesterday. It was such a big opportunity, and I want to thank Lockdown DNB for putting me on that. But yeah, if you have a look at my social media, DjWizhard or _T.Greenwood, you can have a look at what I'm doing and what I'm up to. My SoundCloud as well, all music's posted there. I'm working on a few bits with people. So yeah, that's really what's going on at the minute. I think the whole radio thing is brilliant as well, because it's free deck time. You know, if I got a set on Saturday, you know, I can get to the radio station on Friday, play out my set, get some feedback live. You know, there's still a little bit of all right, I can't mess this up, you know, because you're not practicing, you are going out live. But at the same time, you know, there's not, you know, there's not 50, 100 people in front of you. So you haven't got to worry as much, you know, if you slip up. So yeah, I think that's good. So my whole process at the minute is going really well. I think, but yeah, that's the most exciting bits I've got going on at the minute. A few bits in production that's going on. I'm just really trying to crack the production scene at the minute as well, you know, because like we said earlier, that's so important.
Yeah. That's amazing. It's amazing. You're so busy. It's incredible.
Yeah, I know. It's mental.
Yeah, that's incredible. Amazing. So I'll put on the show notes links. If you send me the links, I'll put them on the notes so that people can sort of find you.
Mm-hmm.
And as I say, send me some stuff that I can sort of put into the podcast.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, 100%.
That'd be brilliant, mate. Well, thanks, Tom.
That's brilliant. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Appreciate it.
No, really good and really interesting chat, actually.
No, it's really good. Really good.
All right then, mate. Speak to you soon then.
All right, take care, Vic. Thanks for having me.
Nice. 一样是少林学艺，东院师傅教你。This is what I'm doing.一样是少林学艺，东院师傅教你。This is what I'm doing.